Hi everybody, welcome to today's webinar. Today we're going to be talking about why service providers use Zadara Enterprise Cloud Storage. Thanks for joining us. I have a few housekeeping items to go over. If you have any questions, please use your GoToWebinar control panel. This will answer any questions you have at the end. There's also a bunch of collateral that you can find there. One of Frank Berry's reports is there. He's joined us today. A case study with Netrepid. We have Sam Coyle who's joined us today from Netrepid, and we'll be asking a couple polls throughout. So I encourage you to go ahead and answer those polls because that'll help us cater the messaging to you even better. So as I said, we've got Frank Berry here today. He's the founder and CEO of IT Brand Pulse, which is an analyst firm in the market. We've got Kevin Liebel of Zadara Storage, who can talk about our project a little bit, and then Sam Coyle, the president and CEO of Netrepid, who is one of our service provider partners. I'd like to go ahead and start today with a poll, see where everyone is at. We want to know what your biggest storage challenge is as a service provider. So is it investments in capital support the business? Is it identifying new features and services to keep up with market trends, creating a competitive advantage over other service providers, or creating stickiness with customers so that they don't leave? So let us know what your challenges are, and that way we can cater our messaging to you. So seems like most of you it's with creating competitive advantage, which of course that's going to be a big challenge for all of us. So I'm going to go ahead and close the poll. Some are identifying new features and services. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of changes going on in the market. So how can we keep up? And we'll touch on that. So I'm going to go ahead and close the poll and continue on with the presentation. And with that said, I'm going to introduce Frank Berry of IT Brand Pulse.
Good morning. I'm an industry analyst, and one of the things that we track at IT Brand Pulse is what percentage of overall infrastructure of a service is storage. And before this webinar, I looked at what other forecasts were, and what I found was that the analyst community estimates that storage as a percent of infrastructure of a service is somewhere between 2 and 15%, a very low number. What that means is there's a lot of greenfield for VARs and MSPs. Whether you haven't stepped into it yet, you're ankle deep or chest deep, there's a lot of greenfield opportunity. So where that leads is you need a strategy. And there's one strategy that I think that might be applicable to this situation, this opportunity, and it's called the guerrilla game. So the guerrilla game refers to a book by Jeffrey Moore, and it's really for investors. And the example that he uses in the premises of the book is if you invested $10,000, everybody knows the story. If you invested $10,000 in Microsoft in 1986, by now you'd have made $1.8 million. So as a service provider, how do you apply that strategy in order so that you're going to be equally successful as an enterprise storage service provider? And the strategy is to look for areas of hypergrowth. You're there. We've already identified it. It's storage as a service. And so the next part of it, and which we're going to talk about in this webinar, is find the dominant players and then focus on a few. And the way that you find dominant players is you identify first discontinuous innovation. Again, we've already identified that. It's storage as a service. It's a trend which is going to, it has such compelling benefits that new standards and operating models are quickly developed to help the trend succeed. As we know, the whole IT industry is gearing up, towards a service model. And then the second part is to find the companies. And these are companies that are going to bring about a sea change in how IT does business. These are the gorillas in their market. It is by definition not defined by size. Zadara is a gorilla and a dominant player in the new market for enterprise storage as a service. So here's a chart that helps understand, gives you a view of what discontinuous innovation is relative to other types of innovation. So it's a radical advance, profoundly alters the basis for competition. I've populated these quadrants with examples of technology that represent incremental change to new markets, exploit existing products and markets. And in the upper right-hand quadrant are examples that are discontinuous innovation. Those radical advances. Zadara belongs in that cloud services bubble, and I would also propose that Zadara is actually making radical innovation within the cloud services market with their on-premises as service capabilities. So to validate this, IT Brand Pulse went out and we polled 200 IT professionals, and they came back and they pretty much validated the premise that yes, this is a radical advance. We asked them, who do you believe is the most powerful example of discontinuous innovation? Infrastructure as a service was at the top of the list. We also asked them, and this is probably more a question that's more relevant to what issues you're going to face as an MSP and how this might affect who you're going to partner with, is what's the biggest challenge a service provider is going to face in launching a service offering. At the top of the list is, I need to develop the capability or partner with somebody that's going to help me compete with AWS, Google, and Azure. I need to deal with the amount of investment required. And the third part was deploying the software-defined storage. And so in summary, at this point, the entire enterprise storage industry is really at a major technology inflection point. And this is a model that was made famous by Andy Grove, the former CEO of Intel. And he's saying that once you reach an inflection point, part of the market moves downward. And these, I believe, are the CapEx technology. So traditional enterprise storage business is clearly declining, and it's all revolving around CapEx-based solutions. If you want to be a player in enterprise storage in the future, it needs to be on the storage side. It's only a question of how do you pursue it. So what does it take to be an enterprise storage as a service gorilla? Well, for starters, for MSPs, you have the sales and marketing capabilities. Then it becomes a matter of how do you address multiple layers of technologies, products, support, investment, experience, expertise. And there's multiple layers that I referred to that are underneath that blue bar. And Kevin's going to reveal and talk about each of those layers that are going to allow you to compete with Google, minimize your risk, your investment, and provide you with the expertise that you need. So the last slide I have in my message is there's another benefit of partnering with Zadara, and that is at this point in time in the marketplace, they can provide you not only with a turnkey solution for you to be in the service business, but you can still make a lot more margin than you can by selling storage from the public service cloud public service storage providers. So get in the game now. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, Frank. And before we switch over to Kevin, I'm going to launch another poll. So I'm curious, what existing storage products are you using today? So are you using CapEx storage, something like Dell EMC, NetApp, other storage providers? Are you using cloud-based storage as a service? Are you using an on-premises storage as a service, like a private cloud? Or are you just not sure, or you don't know? So looks like it's 50-50. Some don't know. Most of you are actually using CapEx storage right now. So good, I'm glad, because we're going to talk about the OpEx side and maybe how you can benefit from that. So thanks for participating in the survey. I'm going to turn it over to Kevin now.
Great. Thanks, Christy. My name's Kevin Liebel. I'm the VP of Marketing for Zadara Storage. And what I want to do is explain the Zadara solution and how we fit into this ecosystem that Frank was describing. And probably the most important thing to take away right now is that the landscape is shifting. And this is a chart that is in the report that Frank talked about, the Gorilla report. And it describes over the next 10 years how the traditional enterprise storage CapEx market is declining, and we've all seen that. The big titans of enterprise storage, EMC, NetApp, and others are really either selling their business or retooling their business and getting out of the traditional CapEx storage. And the bulk of the market is rapidly moving to either public or private cloud storage. So public in the cloud with AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google Cloud Platform, or on premises in a private cloud environment. And there's kind of a 50-50 split, but as you can see, by 2020, about half of the $50 billion market will have transitioned to cloud-based as-a-service storage. So what we want to talk about is how do you take advantage of that market transition and the inflection in the market to grow your business? And what we provide at Zadara is enterprise storage, but as a service. And so you can think of us as enterprise storage, very complementary or comparable to traditional enterprise storage that people would purchase. We offer all those features, but it's an as-a-service offering. So when you go into our provisioning portal, you define your controllers, your cache, your drive types, your RAID types, the amount of performance you want. We support all the block file, object, business continuity, DR, high availability capabilities. So we tell our customers, don't give up any of that functionality you're used to when you move to the cloud. But you get the benefit of as a service. So it's pure OpEx, elastic in all directions. You get the multi-tenant benefit, the economic benefit of multi-tenancy, but with a single tenant experience. And there's very short commitments. In the cloud, it's a 1 month or a 1 hour, commitment. And if we're going to ship equipment to you on site for an on-premises configuration, it's a 6-month commitment. So unlike when you buy into a 3 to 5 year lease, your commitment is almost nothing. And one of the key things that makes our product unique is it's a common product and a complete storage solution that evolves with your business. So any location, it can be in the data center supporting compute from Amazon, Microsoft, Google. It can be private in your data center, behind your 4 walls, in your cage, or it can be a hybrid of the two. We support any data type, block, file, and object, and we support all the major protocols. So very flexible. So I want to walk through 4 different categories of benefits, and the first one is financial. The key thing here to think about is the OpEx element. There's no upfront capital expense. You don't need to buy storage. Think of it as a utility. You plug into the wall essentially, and you can use as much storage as you like. And therefore, there's no over provisioning. You don't plan ahead 3 years or 5 years and buy excess capacity to support your growth. You don't have to forecast your growth. We have very powerful chargeback tools so you can bill your customers as they use their storage and have very accurate billing. And because of all of this, we increase margins because there's no CapEx front-end investment, there's no wasted over provisioning, and you basically have just-in-time resources. The second category I want to talk about is operational benefits. The service is fully managed. So from our network operating systems, we have multiple network operating systems worldwide. So we follow the sun. We're always managing your service in the background and making sure that it's monitored and managed for you so that you can focus on running your business, not managing your storage. We offer 24/7 support, so we're always there when you need us. And we offer a cloud hydration service, which is really important. What we're finding today, as you think about that chart that I put up earlier, more and more customers are recognizing the value of as a service, and they want to move in that direction. But then the next hurdle is, how do I get my data hydrated into the cloud? And so we solve that because we provide a full hydration service to help your customers move their data off of traditional CapEx platforms into your cloud. And there's no refresh cycles. So you have the peace of mind knowing that you're constantly running on state-of-the-art equipment, unlike in the old days where you'd buy something and 3 years later it would be almost obsolete and you needed to rethink that purchase cycle. And then finally, functional benefits. A universal storage solution, I talked about that earlier, but any location, any data type, any protocol. Multi-cloud support. This is unique for someone like Zadara Storage because what we do is, as an independent third-party storage provider, if you will, we're separate from the major CSPs, cloud service providers, so we can connect and support compute on all of the big three and others. And what's really powerful for the customer is that if they decide for economic performance or maybe DR purposes, they want to move from one cloud service provider to another, they don't have to migrate their data. They just repoint their storage to the new service provider. And many of our customers concurrently attach their storage to 2 or even 3 of the big 3 cloud service providers. And that gives them the flexibility to utilize their storage on servers in any of the 3 as needed. The single tenant experience. So this is unique for Zadara as well. Your customers get their own drives, their own cores, their own network connections, but get the benefit of multi-tenancy. And what that means is that your customer's data is not running on the same drive as your other customer's data, and therefore there's no noisy neighbor problem, but it also has an extended element of security. Your customer's data, again, is not running on the same drive as their competitor, and so there's no worry that there's going to be a security issue. And then finally, add-on services. We have a variety of cloud hydration, as I mentioned, metropolitan failover, Docker container support, and other features that provide added value over and above the standard service. And then scalable and flexible. We're scalable, you can grow and shrink, we're elastic, you can shrink, which is very unique, and you can change the storage personality on the fly, which means you never make a mistake, or your customer never makes a mistake. A lot of users of Zadara come to us and they say, I'm not exactly sure what I need. That's not a problem. Let's configure it the way you think you need it. And 2 weeks, 30 days, 90 days later, they may come back and say, you know what, I need more capacity or less capacity, or more performance or less performance. And so you can't make a mistake because on the fly, you can change the personality of the storage. And that leads to happy customers because of that agility. And then finally, as I mentioned on the front end, we always say, as you move from traditional storage to the cloud, never give up any functionality. If you have to give something up to move to the cloud to gain new functionality, then you're moving in the wrong direction. So all those enterprise class features that they're used to, they now have in the Zadara environment. And then finally, what's needed. So Frank put up this chart earlier. I'm just going to fill in the gaps. The bottom portion is the baseline features that you need to be in this business. And so it starts at the bottom with enterprise class Intel-based storage hardware. We layer our patented software-defined storage software on top of that, our patented scale-out multi-tenancy software, many of the services like cloud hydration, our global presence, our proactive 24/7 management and support, and then the fact that we're analyst validated and award validated. We're well recognized as a leader in this space, and so that gives your service more credibility.
So to add to that, you really are only adding the sales and marketing, which we help you with. We are constantly doing co-marketing initiatives with a variety of partners. So we really help in that space too.
So a few pieces of collateral that we'll make available to you. Christy mentioned on the front end. The information that Frank gave is really from his report, The Gorilla Game. And so that analyst report will be available to you for participating today. We've got a number of infographics. We've got product collateral, white papers, and other pieces that you can use to review the solution, but also when you come on board and partner with us, they'd be available to you as collateral that you can repurpose.
Yeah, so if you look in the GoToWebinar control panel in the handout section, there's a few of these in there, and we'll be sending out the recording afterwards with a bunch of these attachments as well that you can download at your convenience.
Also, we have a variety of case studies, and so each of these case studies that I'm showing here are service providers that are using our technology today. So I'd encourage you to go in and look at these case studies. I'm sure you'll find one that's very similar to your business, and they'd be helpful in understanding the value proposition even further. So I want to wrap up with 3 testimonials from around the world. 2 of them are from the UK. One is from Pennsylvania on the East Coast. These are customers, and I won't read the quotes, you can read them yourselves, but these are customers that are currently using the product and, finding unique and differentiated value by leveraging the underlying technology of Zadara Storage. And the first poll that came up, one of the leading responses was, how do I differentiate and how do I provide competitive advantage? And these are customers that are doing just that. So with this, I'd like to turn it over to Sam, who is the owner of Netrepid, and let him share his personal experience as one of our customers using the Zadara product.
Great, thanks. So obviously we're a service provider. We own our own data center in Pennsylvania. We provide hosted services, private cloud services for mid-tier markets, primarily in regulated industries. So we were doing hosted exchange before there really was an Office 365, as many of you may have been doing. So as you can imagine, our conversation about storage consumption mirrors exactly what we've talked about already. We're constantly trying to figure out how to plan, forecast, budget, and more importantly, price storage in a method that allows us to make money from day one, but still have the flexibility and the scalability needed to respond to different market factors and different customer needs. Actually, on the next slide there. The challenge that we had, and this is a little messy chart, I'm going to kind of go through the data here. The challenge that we had is really focused around that traditional storage model. We're using Ecologics, we're using EMC, your traditional storage platforms, and although those have great feature sets, the challenge that we ran into was really forecasting, planning, guessing what our storage needs were going to be. Going through that model and figuring out, today we're using X number of terabytes. How much are we going to use in the next 3 years? How do we size that? Which model, which brand do we select, and put that in place? And the biggest challenge there is that it's like buying a car. You have to have all 4 tires, you have to have 4 doors, you have to have a trunk, you have to have an engine, whether you drive it or not, or whether you're driving one person or not, all those things had to be there. So our challenge really came into play as most service providers in that our costs for that storage were largely disproportionate at the beginning of this cycle. What this chart shows you is the revenue that we were generating was obviously matched with the storage growth, but our costs were fixed. If we had a $500,000 purchase for storage, that monthly lease cost for the 36 months was the same. We're spending, $14,000, $15,000, $16,000 a month on storage. So if you can see from this chart, the cost per gig was dramatically higher at the beginning because we had to have costs that covered, our costs were there for all of the storage, whether we were using it or not. So if we bought a storage array, actually go to the next slide. If we bought a storage array and put in place, say, 500 terabytes of storage, that cost was the same per month. So while in the end, and this is where we really got caught, because we had EMC and some of the others telling us, well, listen, the cost per gig is only 4 cents a gig. And that's true if we were actually using all of the storage and generating revenue on all the storage. But assuming that we bought, let's say, 500 terabyte array, and we were going to start off with 20 terabytes and grow even at 10% a month, which is a pretty aggressive growth rate. It would take us almost a full 36 months to use that entire storage. But along the way, our revenue, it took almost the 2.5 years before we got to a point where our revenue is actually keeping up with our storage costs and actually generating a substantial profit. So when you amortize that out and figure out what that cost per gig is, in the beginning, it was really costing us $1.50 or more per gig for storage, but we were only charging, 15 cents. So as you can see, the cost just did not match up. So the challenge we had as an organization was trying to figure out how we could match, guess, plan, gauge our storage purchasing to be more in line with what our revenue was. And the secondary element to this, which these charts don't even reflect, is we had to guess properly. Not only did we have to guess on what the storage amount was going to be, but we had to guess on the storage distribution. How much was SATA? How much was SAS? How much was SSD? And God forbid we were wrong. At that point, it's not hey, I need to swap out 2 drives. At that point, it's I need to buy a whole nother shelf or a whole nother controller, or I need to swap out drives, which is not a return and buy new. It's buy new drives. So the risk of that capital expense was just becoming outrageous. And what we found with the Zadara model is that we can have capacity available to us so that as we need it, we can spin it up. And we've gone through this model where we started certain servers, certain storage on one type of storage platform, let's say SATA drives. And then as we analyze the performance of those servers or the requirements of clients, we've been able to move them dynamically to SAS or SSD storage in the background where the clients don't see it. It doesn't impact performance. And we can adjust billing by the hour to reflect the changes in service that are being provided. And that gives us a great deal of flexibility. When we actually first brought the Zadara platform in, we gave them our allocation, how we thought the drive split was going to be. And it wasn't 8 weeks later that we were swapping out those drives, trading in SATA drives for SAS drives, purchasing more SSD drives. And we've been able to expand that as we've gone along. And to the inclusion that even the drive types that we have, the SSD types, those have been upgraded through Zadara, with basically just letting us know these new drives are available, they have more capacity, and we plan swapping them out. So it's been allowed us to expand and grow and really take advantage of current technologies on a regular basis without having to go through this constant capital process, get financing, get leases, build cost models for a service that was largely underwater for the first 2/3 of its performance. And this chart that you see up here is really more indicative of what our experience is now as we sell storage. So the great thing is that today, drives or whatever, the second that's turned on, we're able to bill that back to our customers and generate revenue immediately. So now, instead of having lopsided financials that we're trying to make up with other services, now we're able to, from the very beginning, make sure that our storage is generating revenue, positive, healthy revenue that is in line with what our consumption is. And that's allowed us to focus on other features and other services as we grow, and not have to worry so much about managing this kind of archaic beast of storage, because this gives us a much more scalable model. And to that end, I will say that one of the other really nice features is that multi-tenancy, being able to take these storage platforms and carve them off. Basically, I tell our clients, they're like micro SANs. We have co-location clients, we have private cloud clients that we can literally carve off their own little micro SAN, present it with whatever format they want, NFS, iSCSI, whatever, and know that, those are their drives. It's not shared space with somebody else. It's not striped across the entire array. Those are their drives. We can encrypt them with their keys. We can ensure that that data is isolated to them and their performance is isolated to them, which also helps dramatically when we deal with some of the regulatory issues that we have with FDIC and HIPAA and some of the other things. Being able to say, no, this is your storage in this tightly contained, physically isolated pool allows us a greater flexibility as an additional feature that we can provide that other service providers aren't able to necessarily provide because they're using more traditional SAN, LUN type technology that really stripes and combines storage together. So all those things wrapped up have really given us a much more powerful discussion about storage and about pricing. It's allowed us to be very competitive and a lot more dynamic as we talk to our clients and really focus more on that dynamic flexibility so that they don't get pigeonholed into a specific technology. They're not tied to a specific purchasing. We can be flexible and elastic with them, and the storage certainly sets the foundation for that.
Thank you, Sam. We appreciate you providing your insight. So that wraps up for today. I'm gonna finish with a couple things. I'm gonna launch one more poll, and that is what kind of storage products do you expect to be using in a year or two? Are you gonna keep with your CapEx storage? It seems like most of you are using CapEx currently. Are you looking to move to the cloud and maybe increase your existing cloud-based storage or start moving to the cloud? Are you interested in private cloud? Are you looking to go on-premise? Or are you just not sure? Are you still just kind of researching? Are you looking around, see what's going on out there and see how it can fit into your business? And interestingly enough, and good news for us is it looks like Frank's chart is again validated, and a lot of people are looking to move to that OpEx-based storage as a service. And while some of you don't know, I hope that today's presentation was helpful in furthering your decision-making process. So I'm gonna go ahead and answer some questions that I saw come in. Someone's asking if the presentation will be available. Yes, it will be. We will send it out via email, if not today, definitely tomorrow. And we'll include some of the collateral that is available in the handouts, just in case you're unable to download it. So yes, all the collateral will be available via email as well as the presentation, and you can always visit zadarastorage.com for further collateral. Now I'll get into the more technical questions. This one is for Frank. Seems like you and a lot of other analysts and other people they've talked to predicts this demise of traditional CapEx storage, and the market's moving away from buying storage. Is there room for service providers, or do you predict everyone moving to these big three cloud service providers, or how do you envision that?
I think that there's lots of room for value add to generic public cloud service provider storage. There's so many special needs for special applications, and the local presence still matters. Great.
This one is for Sam. Someone's wondering how many vendors that did Netrepid evaluate before selecting Zadara?
We were using a split of Ecologic and EMC storage at the time we made this decision, and ironically, we'd gone through the big ones, EMC, NetApp, Ecologic, to try and figure out what the best one was, and we were actually about to, as a matter of fact, I had lease papers on my desk to sign for $1 million purchase order for storage. Literally the day we found out about Zadara, and so we held off on that. But we spent probably 4 months evaluating basically every storage platform that we come up with to include some of the flash arrays that are out there, Nimble, and some of the others. And this became a much more scalable, much more flexible model for us.
Great. And this is regarding the cloud hydration that Kevin touched on. Someone's interested in the cloud migration aspect and the hydration, and it's been a challenge. Can you provide a little more details on what that cloud hydration service looks like, Kevin?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you go to our website under, I think it's under technology, you'll see cloud hydration, and you can pull up the page. There's a white paper, there's a number of pieces of collateral that describe the hydration process. But in simple terms, there's really two different options. One would be for static data. And in a configuration where you have a large configuration of static data, the process is very simple. We put an appliance on site, we mirror the data over to the appliance, we ship the appliance to the cloud location, we upload the data, and you're off and running. Excuse me. It's really that simple. We take care of the process, and we work with you and work through the steps so that we ensure that the data is moved with integrity and security. The second option is when the data is in a production mode, and that becomes a little bit more complex, but the basic thought process is the same. What we do is we put two appliances on site, we mirror the data, and then we double mirror the data. We break the second mirror and continue to mirror the first set of data. We ship the second appliance to the cloud location, then we resync the mirrors. And when we resync the mirrors, only the updates that occurred during the period that the second appliance was moving are transferred. And once they're back in sync, then you break the first mirror that's at the first location, and your data is uploaded to the cloud. So, the process is well defined. We've done it for hundreds of customers, and we can work with you to put together a transition plan for your clients.
Great. And that looks like it's all the questions today. If anyone's interested in signing up for a free trial, you can go to our website, zadarastorage.com, and there's a free trial button right there on the homepage. And that'll allow you to see how you can set up configure your storage. As Kevin said, any file type. We connect to a lot of all the major cloud providers and other service providers like Netrepid and others. So I encourage you to go there and try it out for yourselves and see what it's all about. Again, we thank you for joining us today. Looks like we had one last minute question. I'll let Kevin talk about this one. They'd like you to elaborate on Zadara's disaster recovery and data protection strategy.
Sure. Again, as I mentioned earlier, our position is you shouldn't give up any of those DRHA business continuity features. So we have a number of different tiers depending on what you're trying to accomplish. We'll do snapshots. They're low capacity snapshots so that you can protect against things like viruses and so forth. Snapshots, however, will not protect against other things where you may need a local or remote mirror. So we provide mirroring. We also provide metropolitan failover. So if you're in New York and you want to mirror to New Jersey, or you're in Southern California and want to mirror to Northern California, or even LA to New York, or vice versa, we can do those types of things. So all the features that you'd expect from a traditional, well-architected on-premise CapEx solution, we can provide as a service. Additionally, because of things like the single tenant experience in a multi-tenant environment, there's additional levels of security where we're separating your data from anyone else's data. We also have security features, so full encryption, both in flight and at rest. And one of the unique things that we do is we have user-owned keys. So we don't own the keys, you own the keys. And that's really important for certain vertical markets to ensure that the vendor, or the user in this case, is the only one who has access to the data. We do not have access to your data. And then finally, the hybrid capability makes us very unique, because you can mirror from a cloud environment back to an on-premise environment or vice versa. And very few people give you that capability. So there's a wide variety of business continuity, disaster recovery, high availability, and security features. We can combine them in different ways to architect a solution to meet whatever needs you have.
Great question. And so I guess that looks like it's it. So we'll go ahead and wrap up. If anyone has any further questions, please visit our website, or you can email inquiries@zadarastorage.com, and we'll be happy to talk about your specific use case and maybe set you up with a demo, trial, whatever you need. So thanks again for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your Wednesday.